Hello and welcome to my channel The Lab Rats. Today we will start a new lecture series and the topic is nucleic acid, and this video is the first part of this lecture series, Introduction of Nucleic Acid. Again, this video will be helpful for BSc MSc student as well as those who are preparing for MSc as well as PhD entrances. Now let's begin with today's topic. Nucleic acid. Nucleic acids are made of nucleotide subunits and they act as a molecular repositories of genetic information. Okay, so all the genetic information of our body is carried out in the nucleic acid. Okay, so basically each and every cellular component, every biomolecule, every protein which is being formed in our body is due to the information which is carried out in our nucleic acid. And all these information, all these genetic information of our body is basically programmed in the nucleotide sequences of our nucleic acid. So we can say that our phenotype, that is our height, our body complexion, our hair color, our nose, our eye color, each and every phenotype depends on the information which is carried out in our nucleic acid. Our genotype, for example, all the physiological reactions in our body, all the metabolism which our body is performing, each and every reaction in our body, each and every enzyme which is being formed in our body is a result of information that our nucleic acid carries. And then inheritance, inherited traits. It means all the characteristic features that we carry from our parents are due to the nucleic acid composition of our parents, due to the information which is present in the nucleic acid component of our parents. So each and every information which is required for a functioning of a human being or even a single cell in our body is contained in our nucleic acid. Nucleic acids are of two types: DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA, ribonucleic acid. DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is double-stranded, helical, and it is a polynucleotide and contains genetic information of an organism. Now, those segments or regions of DNA molecule that contains information for any biological product, which can be a protein or RNA, these regions or segments of DNA are known as gene. Now, let's suppose this is a double-stranded helical DNA. So if you try to see in a particular region of DNA, so all the genes are not present there continuously. There will be certain segment of gene on DNA or coding regions of DNA which will code for a particular protein or RNA, and then there will be some non-coding regions that will not contain any kind of information for any biological product, and these regions are known as introns, or you can call them junk DNA. Even a single gene can be split into several segments and in between them the introns can be present. So basically these are the segments that encodes for a gene, and there are certain segments that do not encode for any kind of biological product, and they are known as introns or junk DNA. Now whatever information which is present in DNA is converted to a biological product which has different function, that performs different function in our body. For example, DNA can be converted to RNA by a process called transcription. RNA can be converted to protein by a process called translation. So this is a sequence in which information which is present in DNA is passed on to RNA and then to protein. Now once the protein is formed, it cannot be converted to nucleic acid or it cannot be converted to RNA or DNA again. This is known as central dogma of molecular biology. Okay, so according to central dogma of molecular biology, the information contained in a DNA is always flows in this direction, that is from DNA to RNA, then to protein. And once the protein is formed, the information cannot flow back to DNA or RNA. That is, a protein cannot be converted back to RNA or it cannot be converted back to DNA. However, DNA can form another DNA molecule by process called replication. So it is a process by which a DNA molecule can be replicated. Or even RNA can be converted to DNA, that is cDNA, by a process called reverse transcription. So DNA is double-stranded and it is helical in fashion. In case of eukaryotic cell, DNA is present in the nucleus, and as nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle, DNA is separated from the cytoplasm by this nuclear membrane. In case of prokaryotes, DNA is present in nucleoid. Nucleoid is basically a region in cytoplasm where all the nucleic acids are concentrated. And as nucleoid is not a membrane-bound organelle, this nucleoid is in direct contact with the cytoplasm. Now the third case is of viruses. where you can see that this is a nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is enclosed inside a protein coat. This protein coat is known as capsid. Outside the protein coat, there can be another layer which is known as envelope. So basically, in case of viruses, nucleic acid is present in a protein coat called as capsid. Now, what are the different stages into which DNA was discovered? The first major experiment in case of discovery of DNA was by Micher in 1868. Micher was a physician and he was studying the WBC, white blood cell, isolated from the patient's pus sample. Okay. So earlier it was known that the basis of life was protein, and so Micher was studying the different proteins that were present in a WBC, and he isolated a substance, and this substance was containing phosphorus. So in the beginning, Micher called that this substance was also a kind of protein, but after finding of phosphorus in it, it was proved that this cannot be protein as none of the amino acid contains phosphorus. At the end, Micher named it nuclein because it was found in the nucleus. The second major experiment was done by Griffith in 1928. Griffith was studying on Streptococcus pneumoniae. So he basically was using two kind of strains. One was virulent and another was avirulent. Okay, so on injecting this virulent strain in a mice, it was causing disease, but avirulent was not causing any kind of disease. Later in his experiment, Griffith found that cell extract of virulent strains were able to transform the avirulent into virulent strain. So he found that in the presence of cell extract from the virulent strain, the avirulent strains were transformed to the virulent one and they were causing disease like the virulent strain. So Griffith concluded that there might be some molecule in the cell extract of virulent strain that was causing this transformation, and he named those molecule as transforming principle. Transforming principle. Now the third major experiment was from Avery, MacLeod and McCarty in 1940. So they wanted to find out what was that transforming principle that Griffith was talking about. So they took the same strain of Streptococcus pneumoniae. Okay, so they took virulent and avirulent strain. And after their study, they found that the transforming principle that Griffith was talking about was a DNA. It was a DNA molecule. Next major experiment in the discovery of DNA was from Arvind Chargaff in 1940. He found that DNA contained 4 different kind of nitrogenous bases, and the amount or composition of these nitrogenous bases was varying from species to species, but one thing was constant in all the species, and that was all the bases were present in a specific ratio. That is, all the species were following the rule, which was adenine molecule will be equal to thymine and guanine molecule will be equal to cytosine. Now the next major breakthrough in the discovery of DNA was from Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins in 1950. They produced the X-ray diffraction data of DNA. According to their result, DNA was a helical structure, and there were 2 types of periodicity that were present in DNA. One was every 3.4 angstrom and another periodicity was found every 34 angstrom of DNA. Okay, but with the X-ray diffraction data, they could not form the 3D structure of DNA. They could not produce the 3D structure of DNA. Next was the experiment by Hershey and Chase in 1952, and they proved that in case of viruses also, the genetic material is made of nucleic acid and not protein. So it was proved that genetic material is always a nucleic acid and not a protein. The last and most important finding was from James Watson and Francis Crick. They formed the first 3D model of DNA. They produced the first 3D model of DNA to the world, They collected all the data present in the public domain. They found all the data that were available about DNA, including the X-ray diffraction data of Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins, and they interpreted those data and came up with a 3D model of DNA. They proposed the 3D model of DNA, which was later approved, and they got a Nobel Prize for that. Now, this 3D model of DNA presented by Watson and Crick is about B form of DNA that we study today. B form of DNA. So, DNA has different forms. One of it is B form, and the 3D model has all the properties that are present in the B form of DNA. RNA or ribonucleic acid. Unlike DNA, RNA is a single-stranded molecule and it is present outside the nucleus in the cytoplasm. It is molecularly similar to DNA, however, its chemical composition or chemical properties are way different from the DNA. And in case of RNA, wherever their bases can pair together, they do so. That is, suppose this is a single-stranded RNA. So wherever there will be a complementary sequence in the single-stranded RNA, they will form the base pairing. So suppose these are the complementary regions which are forming base pairs. Okay, and due to this base pairing, RNA forms a secondary folded structure. Now, as far as the function of DNA is concerned, we know that DNA is a genetic material. It functions as a genetic material. Okay. RNA, on the other hand, performs various functions. One of it is a genetic material, but only in case of viruses. No eukaryotic or prokaryotic organism contain RNA as a genetic material. Only viruses contain RNA as a genetic material, and a virus can have a genetic material of single-stranded RNA, double-stranded RNA, single-stranded DNA, or double-stranded DNA. Some RNA can function as enzyme, for example, ribozymes that act as catalyst. Other forms of RNA are mRNA that encodes for amino acids of polypeptide. Then there are rRNA. They are ribosomal RNA and they helps in translation. Then there are tRNA, transfer RNA. They help to transfer amino acid to the ribosome during translation. So they also helps in translation. There are various small nucleotide RNA such as siRNA or miRNA. These small nucleotide RNA helps in regulation of a gene expression. So basically they suppress the gene expression, suppress the target gene, suppress the expression of target gene. And there are many other forms of RNA and they have different functions. In short, we can say that RNA has a more versatile function in comparison to DNA. Thank you so much for watching the video. If this video was useful to you, please like and share it. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon for recent updates. You can post all your video related query in the comment section. Also for your queries and recent update, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning and keep motivating.